You can be making decent money and still feel broke. I've personally felt that, and I know it's frustrating because on paper, everything should be fine technically. But when I started looking closer, I realized it wasn't about my income. It was about a few patterns and habits that I had developed that were slowly draining my bank account. The fact of the matter is, most people don't have an income problem, they have a margin problem. In other words, they're just spending more than they make. And I get it, with inflation and the rise in cost of living, it's hard to make ends meet sometimes. And in this video, I'm gonna show you 5 things that you can do right now, right away, to help you to stop feeling broke. Number 1 is stopping small spending habits. I talk about this a lot in my different videos, but it's true. The small things really add up over time. Even over the course of a week, spending $5 here, spending $10 there, multiply that by 5, 10, 15 times, and that's hundreds of dollars. Coffee runs in the morning are notorious for this. Snacks that we pick up while we're at the gas station. Just little things that are under $10 that we just dismiss because they're under $10. They never feel like a big deal in the moment, but when those things happen every day, sometimes multiple times a day, that adds up quick. And over time, they start to take a big part of your budget. Number 2 are monthly obligations or subscriptions. And sometimes it's not just having these monthly obligations because we need things like electricity, utilities, gas. It's the extra subscriptions on top of that that we don't necessarily need, or even the subscriptions on top of that that we've forgotten about. Similar to small spending, these subscriptions don't seem like much. And of course, they've all gotten more expensive over time. Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, they all don't seem much by themselves, but you add them all together, and suddenly $50, $75 of your monthly income is already spoken for. And those are just streaming services, not to mention all of the other stuff that we carry on top of that. Constantly do an audit of your monthly subscriptions, constantly audit what your monthly obligations are, and look for opportunities to cut out the stuff that you don't need or don't use. Number 3, and this one can be pretty sneaky, it's convenience as a default. We're tired at the end of a long day. We don't feel like meal prepping for our lunches. We just want to go out and grab drive-thru or grab fast food. That's okay every once in a while, but when convenience starts to become the default over and over again, that can really hurt our budgets. This can even start to escalate over time. We used to just be okay with driving someplace and going through the drive-thru, and now we're ordering DoorDash, which is notoriously more expensive than just driving to the place. Our society is constantly pushing things to become more convenient, easier, but typically those options are always going to cost more. And when we start to choose convenience as the default option, rather than the last resort, it becomes a habit that costs us way more than we realize. Number 4, and this is another really sneaky one, but clutter that leads to more spending. This one really surprised me, and this is a big reason why I started going with minimalism in the first place. I realized that the more we had, the more we spent. And you're like, wait, how does that even make sense? Well, I actually made a whole video about how clutter is costing you more than you think. But the basic gist of it is that when you have too much clutter lying around, you start to lose track of things more easily. That leads to duplicate purchases, aka buying stuff that you already have, which then in turn creates more clutter. Things just end up buried and forgotten after a while. And when you have more stuff, more clutter lying around, we tend to look for more ways to organize that stuff, which means we're spending money on storage bins and storage containers. We're trying to free up more space in our garages. In the end, clutter just costs you more than you think, and ultimately it leads to more spending. And this brings me to my last point, and this is where everything sort of comes together and culminates all into one final package. And that's, you have no margin. You have no room for error. There is no wiggle room whatsoever. That was the biggest realization for me, was when I looked at all this different spending that was going on in our household, I realized we had zero margin. Everything was allocated. Everything was already spoken for. And all those small little purchases, all those little subscriptions, having too much clutter, spending money on things that we didn't need or that we already had was really making us feel way more poor than we should. Even if something small came up, a repair bill, a trip to the doctor's office, extra car maintenance, immediately it felt stressful. And that's really what makes you feel broke. It's not the lack of money, it's the lack of breathing room that you have when that kind of stuff comes up. When you put it all together, it starts to really make sense. It's not just about how much money you make, it's about what's quietly taking away your money, taking away your margin or your breathing room, and just making you feel broke. Remember, you don't feel broke because you make too little in most cases. You feel broke because too much of what you make is already spoken for. Hey, if you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you. I'm trying to do something a little bit more short form, a little more quick and snappy. Please comment down below, what are some of the things that you feel like you're spending way too much money on, or that you've had to recently cut out of your spending and your budget? And as always, like and subscribe if you like this content. I make videos once a week and post every single Friday. And if there's something you'd like me to make a video on, please comment down below on that too. Thanks again, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.